Hello, and welcome to my channel. A few months ago, I watched another YouTuber, Studson Studio, create the Howl's Moving Castle out of essentially recycled materials and model kits, basically trash. And it kind of sparked something in me to want to try that. So I made a YouTube channel, and this is my first attempt making crafting something miniature on my own, and I hope you enjoy. I am going to be constructing the Adventure Time Treehouse.
Here we go!
Getting right into it, I'm starting with some popsicle sticks. I'm going to score them with a utility knife and snap them. They're going to form the skeleton that will make the base of the tree. You can see me snapping the popsicle stick now. After I snapped a dozen, I took a hot glue gun and glued them into squarish shapes. And then I just glued them into more square shapes until we ended up with a structure like this. This is a sped up footage of me working on the trunks of the tree. It's just tree branches. They're just dried out outside of my garage for a while. I'm drilling holes that I can insert armature wire into for support of the branches. I'm super gluing them together and just modifying them into the shape that I want them to be. Just a Y shape for the large middle piece. Now I'm finished constructing the branches. I'm going to be super gluing them to this plywood base using gel Gorilla super glue. There's number 1 in place. Number 2. Now you're gonna see that I completely forget about the right branch. And you're gonna see me figuring that out in the future in this video. Just checking the integrity of it. Alright, here we are, dumping hot glue to fix this right branch in place. Ended up being okay. I just used an absurd amount of hot glue to secure it. I'm going to be using some cardstock and gluing it to all of the popsicle sticks to form the outer shell of the base. Now I am using modeling paste and covering up all the edges of the paper to make it look nice and flat. Just dabbing it on for now. Eventually I'll start globbing it on.
Oh, glob!
Covering the whole surface, giving it this nice texture that we have here. completely covered. I used like a little pick to try to give it a wood-ish bark texture. Then we're moving on to Mod Podge. Some people use paint and Mod Podge as a sealer base layer to kind of just lock everything in. I didn't use any paint. Now you're gonna see me start painting the base. I thought I would try like a brown base layer and then try to lighten it up with some yellow to give it that yellowy, brownish yellow color that it has in the picture. But that didn't really work. I was using acrylic, regular like canvas paint initially. You can see me trying to test it out, and it's just not working. I probably should have just tried it on paper. That would have been the smarter thing to do. Here you can see me discovering the yellow ochre, and that's basically spot on to what the color is in the original, in the show and in the picture that I have for reference. So I just moved to the back side, and here you see it in its entirety. Nice and shiny yellow. Here I'm going to apply a wash. The wash is a burnt umber brown and some dish soap and water mixed together. You can see you just dab it everywhere. I painted the whole thing with the wash, and ultimately I decided I didn't like how it looked, and eventually in the project you'll see I had painted over the wash. Here you'll see me start the process of constructing the houses. I used some ready board foam. I didn't have any reference for size, like 3D models or anything like that I used. Just took some measurements with my ruler and kind of guesstimated. Here you see me sizing it up, comparing it to the treehouse, or the tree itself. This foam I actually bought a recommendation from the Dollar Tree. It's very cheap, and you just peel off the backing, and it's very easy to peel off and to cut. You can see me making some progress on the main house structure, just using some hot glue and kind of just making it. It's not a perfectly shaped structure. It's very cobbled together, much like a lot of the things in the Adventure Time universe. It's a post-apocalyptic world, so nothing is engineered or built perfectly, much like my house you see here.
Beautiful.
Here I am gluing the wood pieces to the foam house. It was a very slow process for me. I would measure one piece, cut it, glue it in place, rinse and repeat. In the future, I would probably just put full-size pieces and then cut them all off at once. In a minute, you'll see me my off-camera work that I did for this structure and another one. I used some corrugated paper for the metal tin roof that the treehouse has. I didn't try to really focus too much on making it nice and neat, the overhangs or the peaks, since the house itself isn't symmetrical. Lots of just random panels here and there. Just gluing it on with some tacky glue. Here's some sped up footage of me continuing the roof work on the main house structure and the smaller one. Just covering up those peaks, super gluing them, or not super gluing, hot gluing them in place. So here you see I've made some other house structures off camera. I'm taking some tools and scoring the wood and just beating it up, making it look worn and old, so it's not all so uniform and flat. I primed all of the house structures with some gray spray paint off camera, and here you see me applying a brown base coat. In the future, in the video, I'll be painting them again, but this is just to give them a nice base coat over the gray primer. I acquired a pack of 1,000 coffee stirrers. I had seen in Studson's videos that he often uses coffee stirrers for any wooden structure, and I knew I would be making the deck, and the popsicle sticks that I use for everything else were just very thick and hard to work with. Structurally they were good, but cutting them was just, it took too long and too much effort really. So the coffee stirrers, here you can see me placing them on some masking tape. These are going to be the 4 main walkways that make a square around the base of the tree into the outside deck. I'm just using some tacky glue now to add some support on the bottoms. After gluing all of the decking pieces together, I placed them on top of the limb supports you see here, staggered around the tree. This is the part I was excited about the most, using recycled material to build the treehouse. I used some bottles and other plastic containers, cut them up, and put some foam on top of them to round them off. I had a few different methods to secure them. Use some armature wire, and later on in the project, I did some off-camera extra support with some more wooden sticks and hot glue. This is the main tree piece, the center large piece. I'm drilling some holes. I'm gonna run armature wire through them into the main tree here, and super glue those into place. So you can see me spinning some armature wire together, doubling it up so it's got some more strength. So this is how I did the foam tops for the tree tops. I took a piece of insulation foam, traced the circle shape, and then just cut it away into a circle shape. Hot glue it onto the top, as you can see I'm doing here. And then you just shave it away at an angle, like a 45-ish angle. Don't do what I do with the knife here. Maybe not the most safe knife practice, since it is extremely sharp, but I managed to not cut myself during this project, so I think I did okay. Just shave off any excess and save it for later because you might need it. After I was done cutting it to the shape that I wanted it to, I did sand it down so it would be a little bit smooth. So here I took some dollar store foam rectangles and cut them into smaller rectangles, and then cut one end with the X-Acto knife to make it jagged and appear more tree-like. We have my helper, sometimes helper, the Siamese cat. Now I'm just marking about the height where I want to glue the foam foliage pieces to the structure that I have, and I just went the whole way around, kind of made a skirt, and then did the same thing for the upper half, overlapping them as I went. I'm not sure if there's a better way of producing what I did. This method, I didn't really like it, but I made it work. Now you can see this beautiful rainbow of foam foliage. Now at this point I didn't record this process. It took me forever. but I just took spackle and basically covered the entire thing, the foliage foam. There you can see it's completely covered. I used an entire small tub of spackle for it. Now I'm just gonna start painting the foliage green. I used an apple orchard green from Folk Art. I should probably mention also that about halfway through this project, I went and bought some Folk Art crafts paint, acrylic. I had seen other people use it on other channels, and I would recommend it. It's good quality. It spreads well. Compared to the acrylic paint from the tubes I was using, that was more for canvas use. This Folk Art paint is more universal. So here you're gonna see me start working on the tree knots, rings that are on various locations on the tree. I'm just cutting up some sections of clay here, and then I'm going to roll them into wormy dealies, as North of the Border calls them. You can just see me test fitting them around the limb here. Now after I got all these shapes that I wanted, I baked them, which you can do with clay, to harden them up, and but that didn't work out. They just didn't fit properly the way I wanted them to. It was going to be more effort to blend them to the base itself. So I started over with some fresh clay. I was very pleased with how this method turned out, as opposed to trying to bake the clay and then fit them into place. Doing it this way, I was able to blend them in well, and I was just very happy with how it looked aesthetically, even though later on, after painting them, they're kind of hard to notice. Here you can see a final shot of all of the tree knots, and now I have some modeling paste covering them, ready to be painted. Also, this tree limb over here I hadn't done yet. Now it was time to paint the tree knots yellow, and the supporting branches for the deck, and the remaining limb also. It was at this point I decided that I was going to repaint the entire base yellow and not do a wash. The wash did look good, but like I said earlier, it didn't fit the aesthetic of the cartoon. I knew also that I could go back and apply a wash again if I chose to in the future. And here I am painting the inside of the tree knots with some burnt umber brown. Next up was the dirt. Now I'd seen a lot of other content creators just take dirt and sand and mix it with Mod Podge and paint and get a nice base layer texture that they wanted. You can see here I was testing the waters a bit, mixing in a little bit of Mod Podge, and it didn't really work for me. It was just too thick. Maybe I got the ratios wrong or something, I don't know. But ultimately, I ended up just spreading some Mod Podge on the base and then sprinkling some sand on top of it, and that worked for me. Cutting ahead, I finished the dirt layer around the base, and I'm going to be doing some flocking. So I spread it around evenly in a nice layer, and then in the jar, you can see on screen I have a mixture of just water and Mod Podge. And I'll be using a dropper to spread that around and lock everything in place. I also took some isopropyl alcohol. I've heard that it helps the glue bind better to the surface that you're using it on. Onto some carpentry. I took the coffee stirrers and cut them down into very small, thin pieces and made my windows. Here I am working on the cross sections of this window. I just used super glue to glue them all together. Using the cardboard from an old cereal box, I cut out the size appropriate pieces for each window. The cardboard would act as the glass of the window, and I would eventually be painting them in the future of this video. Using some recycled plastics, I was able to make a few of the accessories for the treehouse. I used some straws, tubes, and caps from various food items. I made the little chimney thing, the flagpole, and the larger chimney. To make the boat at the top of the treehouse, I made a origami boat. The first one I made was too big.
Don't talk to me and my son ever again.
Using the tried and true coffee stirrers, I covered the paper boat in wood. And some terrible camera magic and off-camera work, I painted it red and white. I used some clay to construct this cute little nest with its 3 eggs, and some recycled plastic and metal to make this adorable little telescope. Aww. Here is an unnecessarily long clip of me burning some twine for the rope bridges, and my daughter helping me out in the background.
Take my Get a fire!
Using some masking tape, I held the twine in place while I glued the wooden coffee stirrers in place. After constructing the rope wooden bridges, I glued them in place with some hot glue. Here is a nice before and after of the tree bushes that will go all around the treehouse. Here is a quick tour of the awnings after I installed them. I had made them with the same corrugated paper that I made the rooftops with for the houses, and I painted them gray. Now it's time for a final coat of brown paint on the house structures. Here's a finished shot. And I'll do one more layer before adding the final touch. And the final touch is the darker mismatched color planks that you see here now. And the final touch, and doesn't that look great?
Wow.
Now for the last bit of deck work, I'll be installing the handrails. Coming into the final stretch of this craft project, I'll be placing the various accessories on the treetops. Here is a final shot of all the accessories in place, and at this point I was pretty happy with how it turned out. It's the final part of the project, and that is to glue the tree bushes in place.
Little happy trees.
With the final tree in place, it's time for the photo shoot. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. And I want to give a shout out to Studson Studio for inspiring me to start this hobby. Bill making stuff, Boila Hobby Time, Black Magic Craft, and North of the Border, all great channels that inspired me and taught me a lot of things. Thanks for watching.